Hello, hello. It is the one and only 5D Attraction Pyramidian Coaching. We're here, brought to you by 5D Transformations. And this is a big video right here. I'm really going to break down some deep info regarding the game. And so let me open up the screen. Let's get into this a little bit. Okay. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down attraction on a different level. All right. So, what you guys got to understand is that in this game, it's about being social. It's about being communicative, right? Because what tends to happen is people tend to, if they're not attracted to somebody, they just treat them normal. But if they are attracted to somebody, they begin to want that person. And in wanting that person, it now puts you in a position of chasing, right? Um, Primarily if the person isn't giving you any interest yet, right? So you become this person that wants something. And so, how does this affect things? Let's delve into this. So let's say, let's say, let's just go to an eight. All right. I don't know if I can zoom in, but let's say this person who's an eight here. All right. Let's just assume we say this person's an eight, this girl. And let's say this is the guy that wants the eight. All right. Let's say the average guy is about a 5 or 6 and he wants the eight. Now you have to think about it. There are going to be certain thoughts that he's going to have, certain things that he feels as though he must exchange to make up for this gap. In a lot of cases, he might not know it's a gap, but a lot of the time, the gap comes from this social market value. There is social market value, there is sexual market value, there's a sexual marketplace based on attractiveness. This person here is who he wants. So now she looks at him and goes, okay, if you zoom in on what they're saying, let me see if I can zoom in. It says a 6 guy, this is the response they get. He's all right, I guess. Barely has attractive features, not likely to be incel, but finds much more trouble dating than 7s. And then look at the 5 as well. Neither attractive nor unattractive. These males will encounter significant trouble when looking for a spouse. Okay. Now let's look at the 8 and let's see what people say about her. You're very attractive. You will constantly be bombarded by thirsty men. Men will spend their entire life savings to keep you in a relationship with them. All right. So, what do you think happens when this person who's all right, I guess, barely has attractive features, um, and they want to get at someone who's very attractive and constantly is bombarded by thirsty men, who will spend their entire life savings to keep them in a relationship? At that point, you got a problem. And so, what a lot of guys try to teach is how to come off, what to do to get this person to either barter. Some people say don't even try, just give up. And then some people say, well, you got to act like a 9. And so I think the problem with the old community is that they said you had to act like a 9. And I think what happened over time is people realized you can't act when it comes to dealing with this girl. You got to be a 9. So you have to figure out how to go from this 6 to a 9. Is that even possible? Let's stop there. We'll deal with that later. All right. So now they're trying to get at the 8. Now, the best thing this 6 can do is move up to a 7, right? Where he's above average, but women will rate you as being average. 7 suffer from at least one major physical flaw, like this nose on the right. Okay. And then an 8, objectively good looking, but looks suffer from 3 or more mild flaws. Gifts, girls call you cute or handsome. Now, this is where the leveling playing field begins to happen. It's right here, 8 to 8. Okay. Um, in attractiveness. Now, what I would argue to say, you got another option here. The way that the game works is based off nature, generally speaking. This guy who's the 6 right here, he can get 6s and below. Women tend to branch up, so he really can get 5s and below. That's his world. If he's a 6, 5s and below is his world. This is where he begins to meet his challenge. Between the 6 and 5, he'll get challenged, and then up here is where he doesn't have enough value to keep it. He doesn't feel worthy of being up here. On a good day, he might bag one of these. This 8 is the best he gets on that special day of his life. The 7 is a win. Like he's ready to, most guys are ready to marry, save her, right? And then this 6 right here is where that's their even match. This is where most people level out. Okay. Now, this is his domain is down here, and this is his equal. But he wants this. So so here's what I'm gonna come in and say right now. You have 2 options here, and I'm gonna go deeper, but this is just general right now. You can either deal with the girls at your level and just thrive in that world. Okay. And in doing that, you're gonna build confidence, you're gonna build options, which will give you the appearance of non-neediness, which is what I will talk about later, which is very important, this non-neediness. By him focusing on everything on here, he's not dealing with a lot of feeling like he doesn't have enough, which would affect his confidence. So he's thriving here. And then on a good day, because he's confident, he's going to jump and get that 7. And then on a good night, he can maybe get that 8, like on the right night. Okay. But he can't maintain the 8, and that's the problem. And he probably can't maintain the 7. And this is interesting for the 7. The 7 says your sexual rejection rate is 4% unless you are approved. You will have at least 20 sexual partners before marriage. So 7s, I mean, they can play the chessboard, right? And that's the big difference. A lot of the time is with women, you could be a 6 or 7 and get access to the chessboard. But where it still applies is they have a harder time keeping the 8, 9, 10s, these 7s and 6s. And the same thing applies to women. Now let's flip it. Let's say you're a 6 girl. You're dominating everything right here. All these guys are doing the most to get at you. Like it says, people call you pretty and cute. You can use your charm and above average looks to cheese your way through a career. Boom. But this 6 can do damage on the board, but they'll have a harder time keeping these guys, right? Okay. So let's go to the girls. They deal with that same problem. They want to branch up. So a lot of the time, I notice girls that may be a 6 right here, and they're with the 5, or they're with the 6, and it's a perfect even relationship. Something in them is going to want that 7. That's what you call hypergamy. They're going to want that 7. They're going to want to go from that 6 to that 7. Ideally, the further up you go, the more availability they give. It gets easier. Because here's my whole point. All right, if you know that chasing is unseductive, it is not seductive to chase. What would make someone chase is that they want something. What creates the sense of want is the sense of lack. You want to fill up a gap. So if this guy's a 6, he may want these girls here, but he already knows he can get that. So that, there's a comfort there. But this 7, this 8, these higher levels, he's going to have to do more. He's not going to be able to just get them based off just who he is, right? Which creates a void. It creates lack. And you have to now do extra work to make up for the lack, which creates unattraction. Because what that subconsciously communicates is that y'all aren't at the same level because y'all can't just be. You have to do extra. And then she still might get with you because of the extra things you're providing. But now you have to understand that, in that case, you're chasing her now. You're working to keep her, which means she's going to run the relationship and have the power. It's not going to be a comfortable dynamic. Okay, it's not going to be a very fulfilling dynamic because you're never going to feel fully secure, and she's not going to feel fully satisfied because while she's dealing with you and the things you're trying to do to keep her, she's got this in her desires, the 9 and 10 guy, and we're going to talk about that guy because this is. Now you have to understand, I'm describing the physicality of the game, the sexual marketplace, right? But you have to understand that the game is mental, it's the mind. So once you understand the mentality of the 9-10 man, right? Right, you might be a 6 physically, and this is the dynamic you're dealing with, this separation. But if you have the mentality of the 9 or 10 guy, that's going to allow you to now, on a mental level, position yourself at the top. Okay, because there's some guys that have 9 and 10 looks that act like a 5 or a 4, because you have to understand confidence and self-confidence is an inner thing, and it's actually the more powerful thing. But let's continue, because let's not negate the physicality is very powerful, but there's something more powerful than that, and that's the mind, because the mind is all. Okay, so anyways, now this 8 here, while she's dealing with this is who she wants. And let's see, who are the guys that she desires? Let's see. Let's start with the 8. Okay, no, I'm sorry. Let's start with the 9. Okay, because we already knew that's at her level. This is a dynamic. Her with the 8 is where you'll see a very pretty girl with an 8. And a lot of the time, that guy that's an 8, you'll think, man, he gets a lot of women, blah, blah, blah. But what you'll find is, look, this is what it says. Objectively good looking, but looks suffer from 3 or more mild flaws. Girls call you cute or handsome. So most men will have flaws, and that's where the 8 will see those flaws in a long-term relationship, constantly challenge. What you'll notice is whenever you're at the same level of attractiveness with your partner, there's a battle. Some people think, oh, that's perfect. You both are perfect, but no, it's a battle, because it's a battle for position, because one person is trying to jockey for position. She's unconsciously wanting him as an 8 to think like a 7, so that she can have control and he could feel like, why do you think women love, oh, I want you to treat me like you did when we first were together. I want you to take me on dates. I want somebody who cares, that's romantic. A lot of the time when girls say, I want somebody that's romantic, that wants to demonstrate and show that they care from the beginning, that's because they were 8 dealing with these guys here. Right. And they want this guy now to to act like a 7 or 6 for validation. But all that's going to do is long term make her feel like she has more value than him. So it's not smart for him to give up that position. A lot of those guys do. They'll be at the same level and they'll start to submit and, oh, you're not romantic enough. Okay, let me be more romantic. And they don't realize that over time what they're doing is lowering their value, because they're looking more and more like they're doing things more consistent with what the 5, 6 guy would do, and even 7 to be with the 8, right? If the 8 is with the 8, it should be equal. There's no, we just enjoy time together. You know what I mean? I do stuff for you, you do stuff for, I do stuff for you, you do stuff for me. There's no person doing extra, you know what I mean? So, that's that. So that's what you'll notice. They'll try to put you in that position. But let's look at the 9 and 10. The 9. He's nearly a 10, but jaw isn't quite as chiseled, eyes aren't as sharp, etc. And keep in mind, this is all about looks, but I'm also just factoring in, it's a 9 guy, the vibe, everything, right? Beyond the looks. Whatever that is for you. Like for every woman, a 9 or 10 guy is going to look different, right? But whatever. And then let's look at the 10. Considered attractive by 99% of females, square face with masculine features and hunter eyes, whatever that is. All right, boom. So let's say this guy is the 6 foot, whatever, has the looks, he's financially doing well, the charisma, everything. Now what's happening is, if he is a 9 or 10, when he sees a girl that's very attractive and constantly bombarded by men, and men will spend their life savings to keep her, he's looking at that and saying, these 9 or 10 guys, and saying, okay, yeah, I deal with women all the time who have men that do that to them, but I don't do that because I'm this guy, right? And so what you'll find is you begin to look at it and say, when I deal with you either on a equal playing field as the 8 to 8, or I look at you and I divide myself, or I separate myself from you, because I feel as though I'm up here, you're down here, right? You're very attractive, but I deal with these very attractive women all the time. You have men coming after you and spending money on you all the time. But guess what? I deal with that women who experience that all the time. So I have the abundance of women like that. So because of that, I'm not going to be overly invested trying to chase you. Instead, I'm going to enjoy my time with you and then move on and then do that with the next 8 because I'm constantly around different women of 8 or above that that look really good and have men chasing them. Boom. Now, let's go to the 9 or 10 women, okay? And because your only bet here, if you're trying to get 9s and 10s, which is a small group of men, most men, they're good right here. That's 6 and below. But if you're trying to veer into the 7 and above and really the 9 and 10 level, you can only play from the 10 look or mentality or the 9 look or mentality. And keep in mind, even if you're a 9, those 10, the good thing about being a 9 is you dominate the 9 and under mark. So you have access to the majority of the sexual marketplace with women. That 10 is going to be that's going to be the thing that kind of block you out, right? It might be whatever that means. Their status might be high, might be a celebrity girl that's attractive, might be whatever that is. But let's see what that looks like. So for the 9 that says you're still on easy street here, but it will take you longer to get scouted than a 10. Anyone considers you to be beautiful and sexy. Okay, boom. So that means everybody's just gives you the green light. Like you're bad. You're bad. You're a 9. It's a go. And she's going to want to be with the guy who she sees as constantly 8s and 9s are around, or he has options and access to 8s and 9s. If he has options and access to 8s and 9s consistently, that's the match. Now let's go to the 10 though. What's his kryptonite? Perfectly conventionally attractive. It is impossible to fail at life. If you become homeless, a modeling scout will scoop you up in under a day. And there are women like this. I've met plenty like this. You know what I mean? So, that does happen. And so, especially if you're in areas, LA, Miami, when you out there, those major cities, New York, bunch of places. But when you're at that level now, this is the guy here that is your equal, right? Now, here's the key. Obviously, this is based on looks. So you might be, most men that are between, let's be real, like they're between like a 3 to about 7. You know what I mean? Maybe an 8. I mean, there's a lot of guys that can look like an 8. Like if you go to the gym, if you got friends, like let's say between a 3 to an 8, but on average a 3 to a 7. Primarily, I think they consider guys 7 and above attractive. 8 and above being ideal, but obviously, let's say 7 is where most guys want to be, because at least at 7, you got access to the majority of the board. You can go up to 8, right? Now, let's say you're this guy that's 5. Let's just put you in the middle between 3 and 7. We'll say you're a 5. You're neither attractive nor unattractive, and you encounter significant trouble when looking for a spouse. The 4, let's just look at the 4 real quick. It says only a few 4s succeed in matching with 1s or 2s. Some are called soy boys because they put up with cheating to get laid. All right, whatever. These guys are coming from scarcity. So let's say 5, right? And you want to play up here. Most people are going to tell you, oh, you got to have money. You got to have, you got to pay to play, blah, blah, blah. But really, if you're leading with money, you're not going to be able to maintain that. So it becomes a mental game. And if you take on the mentality of the 10, see, I like the mentality of the 9. Let me tell you why. See, the mentality of the 10, everything 9 and below is moving toward him. This is what I would consider your celebrities, super high status people, people who have a look, models. That's very, very small percentage. Who honestly, I have a lot of those as friends, and they'll tell you right now that they don't even get action at all. They have to still make things happen. But it does get a little easier. I've seen it. I know some guys, especially guys that are in really good physical shape, that work out a lot, like bodybuilder type of dudes, guys that play the Instagram game, always working out. You begin to have these, they're constantly moving toward you when you're the 10. Constantly moving toward you. Now, as the 9, here's what I love about the 9. The 9 has the 8s and under constantly moving towards you. The 9s have the 8s and under constantly moving towards you. When they're dealing with 9s, they deal with them from a place of, hey, we're even. It's a challenge. Let's go. And when they deal with 10s, right, they have the mentality of, I'm not chasing. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, even though there's that level of a branch, they don't have to do that much extra. This is what I would consider between the 9 and 10 would be like a very attractive guy that, let's say, is a very attractive guy in the regular world, quote unquote, and then he's dating the actress who might deal with a lot of high status level people. He might not be at the same status as her, but the looks is there, the charisma, the confidence, and so in that case, you know, he may not be able to maintain it, but guess what? Because he has these options, it becomes a world, and that's what you see. That 8 through 10 group here, they can play the board. Now to tie it all together, this is my main point here. Let's bring it all back home now. What you got to understand is the person that's at this level or that's at this, or basically, period, the person that's the person that is one level above or more than the other. So let's say the girl is a 7, the guy's a 6. Let's say she's the 7. At the end of the day, the 6s and under will be pursuing her, and she's going to be pursuing the 8s and above. The key thing is, when you are social in communication, let's say this guy that's a 5, but you're just social. You talk to you can have good conversation with the 3, the 5, the 7, the 9. You're just going around having conversations. The key thing is to not want anything, because that's where people read agenda. Oh, you're trying to take something from me. You're trying to branch up. Same thing with these guys. Like when they see a 7 chasing them hard, it's a branch up. They might, talk to them and be like, yo, but it's a branch up, so they're not able to enjoy it because they can see what's going on. Oh, this person's trying to have me, and they know why, because obviously if I was their partner, I would glow them up. People would be like, how are you with this person? And people can feel that. So the beauty of when you communicate, and like, for example, let's say you're out and about, and you see a girl that's a 9, and let's say you're a 5, and you walk up to her and you go, hey, what's going on? And she goes, hey, and you go, I really like your watch, man. That's nice. Where you get that from? Oh, I don't know. Somebody bought it for me. Now, there's something very special going on in this moment. Even though you're a 5, even though she's a 9, you all are in the middle of a conversation. And here's the secret. Attractiveness doesn't really get turned. All right, attractiveness exists everywhere. It's the law of gender. If you understand the universal laws, the law of gender says that there's masculine and feminine energy in everything. As a result, there's always attraction, because masculine and feminine energy has attraction to one another. So anywhere you go, there's attraction in the air. Okay, whether you know it or not, whether you're at work, whether you're at the gym. That's why people still get chosen at work. That's why people have work booze. You got to take the rules off of stuff. People try to put rules on things, and that's why we got to keep an eye on that. Masculine and feminine energy is always working. It doesn't care about the titles you put on things. Oh, that's my wife. Oh no, we're just friends. Yeah, y'all just friends. But when attractiveness turns itself on and you start to see what's good, you realize you could be attracted to a friend too, right? So, but here's the whole point at the end of the day is, the beautiful thing is that they're in a conversation, but he has not triggered her yet. Now, the minute he goes, hey, I think you're really attractive. I'd love to hang out and go for dinner. At that point, she goes, oh, wait, you're a 5. I'm a 9, right? That doesn't make sense. And she might not, she's going to calculate that. But if you're just vibing, having fun, said, oh yeah, that's dope, man. You're in the area. Well, there's a lot of things I do out here. I think it'd be cool if we hung out. I do events out here. I know about some really good spots. Have you been to the museum? Have you ever been to museums out here? Oh yeah, I've been out here. Well, there's this one museum that is incredible. And it's blah blah blah. Now at that point, okay, cool. All you're doing is adding value. All you're doing is adding value, right? So because you're adding value, after that conversation, yeah, we should exchange contacts. I'll let you know, boom. From there, you go ahead and you do that. You see another girl, she's a 7. You do the same thing with her. Oh yeah, that's what's up. Well, we should hang out one of these days. I do different things. Boom. Then you see a girl that's at your level, that's a 5. You do the same thing, right? What's happening is now you're going at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You're just talking to everybody. And now guess what you're doing? You have options. You're not chasing. You don't have an agenda. You're just communicating with multiple women. As a result, you're getting different ones. And what begins to happen is you begin to give off the energy of the 8 and above. Because what does the 8 have? The 8 consistently has women that are in his vicinity, that are constantly around him. He has women that are attracted to him, that's constantly around him, and they are attractive women. The benefit that you get is the 5 when you communicate to 9s and 8s and these type of girls without essentially going at them just to date. And you actually go at them for different things, is that you keep them in your space. So now when you go out, you can hang out with an 8 or 9. You know, and that's people that say, oh, well, you're in the friend zone. Well, here's the difference. The thing about the friend zone is you don't communicate interest and you're not being attractive. But here's the key. If you're hanging out with a girl and you're consistently being attractive by having good communication, being fun, and having women around, she's going to be attracted. She's going to gain attraction for you. And essentially what's going to happen is that's how they're going to start wanting to move toward you. So the key mental shift is to go from saying, oh, well, I can't get that girl because I'm at a lower level, and go, yo, it's not about getting anybody. It's about communicating and having fun and being social. And so what I'm going to do in these next videos, we're going to go deeper into the kind of communication style that works. If you're this 5 or 6 or whoever on this board and you want to talk to these type of people, there's one communication style that neutralizes every girl. And I've seen it. And it doesn't matter if you're the cutest guy, the ugliest guy, don't matter, because you're not giving any intentions that need to be rejected. You know what I mean? And some people can say, oh, you're just going around it. You're not being direct. Well, I'm going to tell you straight up, you can be direct. I'm a fan of being direct. But let me just tell you, if you're the 5 and you're being direct, this is what you're dealing with right here. You're dealing with the 6 and under, and that's okay. And you're going to squeeze in a 7 every now and then, and you might fuck around and get an 8 one day. Who knows? Maybe a 9 or 10. Who knows? But like I said, you can't maintain it. So you can go smack at all these on the board and tag one every now and then, you know, or the girl might go, she might be a 5 and she might talk to all these different guys. But for the girl, here's what's going to happen. The 9s and 10s are going to treat her like anything. And if they have sex with her, they're going to bring her around the back. It's going to be, they're going to hide it. The 6 through 8 guys dealing with a 5, they're just going to smash. They're going to be very hard to keep. Those are the girls who say, oh, he cheated. He did. A lot of the time when they do this, it's because they're between 6 through 8 and they want to keep dealing with the 6s and above. They want to keep seeing what's out there. So that 5, but if she deals with a 5 and below, that's loyalty. You know, that 5 to 5 match is marriage. You know what I mean? Or even that 6 to 5. So my whole point is, if you want to branch out of that from the direct side and start to have beautiful women in your life so that you can come off as and start to have the experience or mentality of the 8 through 10 guy, it's going to boil down to one primary thing, and it's going to boil down to being social and offering value to the, you know, having value. And that's what I call value stacks. You got to stack value, because you can be a 5, but you can have so many intangible things that you provide with those 5 looks that are very valuable to the 9 and 8, that can put them in a position where they're trying to move toward you. So you still might not look that attractive, but they start to come to you and communicate with you because you have value that they can use. And I think that's where guys have a hard time. They're so focused on looks, and they give up, not realizing, bro, that's the same thing with sales. And I don't want to give away too much because that's just some separate game. But, you know, you have a product and you're saying just buy it. You know, 2 people can have the same product. One person sells it, the other doesn't, because the other person knew how to explain the value that was there. So first and foremost, you just got to understand, you don't want to chase it all. You don't want to be trying to branch up, because it kills your attraction and it puts you in a position where the other person you're going to be, you know, you're not their optimal option. So what I'm basically saying is, you crushing your lane. If you're a guy that's a 5 or a 6, you crush 5, 6 and below, and you go smack at 7s and 8s. but you go smack at sevens and above with the value that you can provide, right? And you go at many so that you have an abundance of that. Otherwise, you stay in your lane. Okay. There's also things you can do to become more attractive, but I'll do that in a separate video to go from a 6 to an 8, especially for men and women. There's things you can do very easily that can make you move up just based on your looks, your style, working out, your diet, and your confidence. You know what I mean? Your confidence and your value. Like right now, a girl might look like a 5, but if you find out that Bill Gates is her dad, you know, her value is going to go up a lot. You know, she might move to a 6 because, you know what I mean, or whatever the hell. And then the last thing I'm gonna say is you want to separate physical attractiveness from personality attractiveness, because physical looks can take you to a certain point, but if the personality sucks, now you're unattractive. Especially when it comes to guys dealing with women. Women are very keen on your personality and the little things you do that kills it. So I know guys that look like 9s and 10s, but their personality just kills it. So they end up with girls that are 4s and 5s and 3s. And so that happens, and vice versa, where, you know, personality matters a lot. So that's another thing. If your personality is on point, I know some dudes that look like a 5 or a 4, but they have beautiful women in their life because they give off the energy of the 8 and 9. And that's what we're talking about with Pyramidion. You might not look like the 10 physically, but you can have a lifestyle and a mentality that of a 10. And to the point where the guy that looks like a 10 is looking up to you because he has the mentality of a 5. You see, these are the physical look scale, but can you mirror it internally? You can look like a 10, but can you internally feel and move like a 10? I know some guys that are 10s that have the confidence in their mind. When they look in the mirror, they see a 3. And I definitely see that with women. I know women that are 9s, 10s that think they're a 5 or a 6 because of that 10 guy they dealt with that made them feel like shit. So if you might look like a 5, but if your confidence is of a 10, now you in this 7 to 8 area. You know, I look at it like it's rationality, it's ratios. You know, if a girl looks like a 5, but she has the confidence of a 10 and she knows how to move and carry herself and she knows how to dress and bring the best out, she can come off like a 7, maybe even an 8 on a good day with the right makeup and stuff. You know what I mean? And so there's ways to wiggle through the game. And that's what we're talking about. We're not saying we're going to turn you to a 10, but where can you get the leverage to move up in the game of life? You know, you might not move from a 5 to a 9 or 10, but let's say you get from a 5 to a 7. Now you went from dealing with 6s and under, 6s on your best day and under, and now you move to a 7. And now you got access to 8s and 7s on the regular now. That's what we're talking about. We're just taking steps up. All right. So that's my message, man. I got some powerful game to drop for you all. It's going to be a continuation on this. So you can look at this as a part 1. And please comment, subscribe. You know, I need to get the subscribers up, the comments up, so we can keep getting this information out. So, you know, please, you know, spread the word. And yeah, essentially, I got the next video coming soon. And also make sure to check out the Patreon for the high level information. You know, that's where I have the course. It's called Base Dating and Attraction course that really goes crazy, breaking down everything. But this information will help. And yeah, I'd love to hear what you all think, man. So make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. I want to hear what you guys think. And get ready. I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.